Catch up with the CEO of Virgin Australia, Paul Scurrah. Paul, you and, as we saw earlier, Alan Joyce from Qantas sharing the stage at the National Press Club. I gather a point of great agreement between the two of you is that you believe that the airlines are being screwed over with extortionate prices at the nation's airports.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It takes a pretty big issue to get the two CEOs of Qantas and Virgin together. The issue here is that we think that the Productivity Commission has dropped the ball, overlooked some very strong evidence that suggests that there is an imbalance in the distribution of wealth between airports and airlines.
Yeah, what action can you do to do that? Obviously, you're taking this public action. What can the government or the ACCC do to try and get your prices down? And how much of that would flow on to consumers?
Yeah, so we're asking for what would be considered in every other industry a fairly light-handed approach here. Right at the moment, we have no dispute resolution mechanism that makes any sense. We're asking for a negotiate arbitrate regime to come in that purely comes into play only if both parties, after negotiating in good faith, can't come up with an agreement or a fair deal for both parties. And then we ask for an independent umpire to come in, which we would accept the recommendation from. And that can be done far quicker than the current mechanism, which just sees airports and airlines being stuck in court battles, taking years and costing millions of dollars.
Now, it's a pretty competitive business in Australia. You and Qantas go toe-to-toe. You're facing hard times at the moment. You're looking to cut costs by $75 million, cutting up to over 700 jobs after posting your latest loss. I suppose one of the places you would look for inspiration is to your great competitor in Qantas, because only 6 years ago they were facing a similarly dire situation. There was even talk about asking for a government bailout.
Yeah. It's a tough industry to operate in, and there's many things outside of our control in the airline industry, such as fuel costs. Recently, they've been impacted by the Saudi Arabia incident, foreign exchange fluctuations, and increasing charges such as airport charges. So, look, Qantas is doing very well. Their margins, though, are nothing like what the airports are making, and that's the argument we're having here today. But yes, we made an announcement about 750 jobs unfortunately being required to leave the Virgin Group. So $75 million is our target there. What is really, really important is that there is a very strong and profitable second airline in this country. We existed from day one to bring value to the skies and to keep the air fair. We've done that for nearly 20 years, and we continue to keep doing that, and we intend to do it for decades to come. In order to do that, we need to be profitable. That's the bottom line.
When you mentioned two of those big factors that affect your bottom line and Qantas's, that is fuel inputs and the foreign exchange rate, pretty pessimistic outlook on both those fronts at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, I think as an airline you've got to look forward. The only thing you get by looking backwards is a sore neck. And looking forward, we think we do have to take some action to make sure that we remain resilient and profitable despite some of the headwinds we see coming. Having said that, us, like other airlines, we take action as far as fuel hedging and foreign exchange hedging. So there is a way to limit the damage, but it's still something we would prefer to see going the other way. But my intention is to make sure that we are a very profitable business, even in the worst of times, so that when it finally swings around, we can actually start making the sorts of returns our investors want us to, but importantly, making sure that we can provide even more competitive airfares into the market here in Australia.
Yeah, one of the ways you're trying to do that, I read, is that you're trying to get into the Japanese market. 2 spots opening up at Haneda at Tokyo. You don't want them both to go to Qantas. Qantas have been flying that route for decades. What chance do you give yourself of getting one of those slots?
Well, I just don't think it's good for our country to have Qantas with a monopoly between here and Japan in terms of Australian carriers, and particularly they would add those 2 slots to one they've already got. And we believe that we'll do what we've always done, that is to bring value to the skies and to keep the air fair. Going into Haneda for us is very, very important because we've got very strong partners that go in there already. ANA is a very strong and successful airline with an extensive domestic network, would feed off our service. Virgin Atlantic is doing a London to Haneda service, and Delta, one of our best joint venture partners that we partner with through to the US, are also creating a very big hub into Haneda. So we think there's an incredibly strong case for us to be the one that gets the slot into Haneda.
Oh, we'll see how that goes. Just briefly, one other thing, this deal that has fallen over between your frequent flyer service, Velocity, and BP, that must be a big blow to your company.
Oh, look, it's a blow, but it's not one we can't recover from. We've got nearly 10 million members in our frequent flyer program. Our members tell us that they do want to have a fuel supplier where they can earn points, and there's more than one fuel supplier, and we're talking to several others, and we actually look like that we can replace it with a better value proposition than what we had with BP.
All right, thanks for joining us, Paul. Appreciate that.
That's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Chris.